I'm Benny. Behind me is Benny's 92 Foxbody Mustang. I'm not the Benny that owns it. Whatever, close enough.
The two Bennies met at the 2018 Drag Week under somewhat unhappy circumstances. As the story has it, Benny number one, that's Benny who owns this Mustang, shipped his XR6 Turbo Ute from Australia to America for the event. Unfortunately, the car got stuck in US customs. That's when he met this Benny, Benny number two. The two Bennies put their heads together and decided that the next year they were going to build another car, right there in the US, ensuring that there'd be no more customs issues.
The idea of a Foxbody and a Barra combo isn't actually ours. Jason from Tough Mounts had been building mount kits for that. There's also another guy in Queensland, Corey, who has previously campaigned a Barra-powered Mustang as well. So on the back of that, and also having the Barra-powered Cresta, we more or less copied the combo from the Cresta and decided to put in a local US body that we could easily source in America after we shipped all of the locally sourced product to America.
Benny 1 was definitely thinking what Benny 2 was thinking. And once bitten, twice shy, they made sure that all the Australian-sourced components were shipped early on, giving them plenty of time to complete the job.
Things that came into play were like air freight on engines and shipping all of our hardware, like all of our Haltech products were actually shipped with the engine to America. We confirmed that stuff was in America literally months before we even left. We actually landed the crate of engine and Haltech components in about June, and we weren't actually due to arrive late August, early September. So we wanted a massive buffer around all of that sort of stuff to make sure we didn't have a repeat of 2018. We really wanted to deliver a car for Benny on time. And fortunately for us, we were managing to do all of that.
Foxbody Mustangs are amongst the most popular drag racing cars in North America, so finding a good example was not difficult.
When we purchased the vehicle, we actually bought it from Facebook Marketplace, and it came from down in Florida somewhere. I can't remember exactly where it was. But basically it was about a 1,200 kilometre journey each way to collect the vehicle. Luckily the guys from Charleston Performance Solutions also run a side business doing car transport. Those guys went down and picked it up for us, which was fantastic. Those guys also actually let us use their shop to build the car. So when we got the car back to the shop, the first time I'd actually seen it, it was running a small block Ford, a Windsor, and it had been bought out to over 400 cubic inches. So it was a pretty stout combo. It wasn't a junk car by any means. It had already been high fives in the 8th, I believe. So it was set up as an 8th mile grudge car. It had 4.1 diff gears and it was very 8th mile orientated, but obviously we wanted to go quarter mile. So there was a heap of upgrades we had to make to get it across that quarter mile distance.
The existing naturally aspirated and nitrous fed setup was fairly well sorted, and the guys toyed with the idea of persisting with that combo, but in the end decided to go a different route.
Kind of toying with the idea of potentially running it as it was, but none of us are experienced with carbies or nitrous, and the power that it ended up making on the dyno we weren't particularly happy with. It made like about 700 horsepower at the wheels, which it's nothing to turn your nose up at, but when you've got a 1,200 horsepower Barra combo sitting there ready to go, it just made sense to actually just complete the build and get the car going. The Barra combo in the Mustang is a fantastic package. We didn't put a spanner on all week. We didn't have to do lifter adjustments, valve adjustments. There was guys in the morning, literally every morning, tearing their engines apart, doing all kind of top-end rebuilds with conventional V8s. This thing for an endurance event like Drag Week is fantastic. The one downside to running a Barra in America is there's 0 spares. So anything that we needed, we had to carry with us. And fortunately, because of preparation, we had everything. But had anything else gone catastrophically wrong, we'd have been out.
And what certainly sounds like a Toyota 2JZ in... For the Mustang, it sounds like a super event. The 8 mile of 124.
We arrived at Drag Week 2019 Tech Day, parked the cars up together. Obviously, a lot of people from Drag Week, the event itself, were familiar with the Cresta. No one had seen the Mustang at this point. We'd kept it under wraps. It hadn't been publicly announced at all. So we rocked up on day one, or Tech Day, should I say, opened the bonnet, and all these people just came swarming around. Everyone was guessing. You could hear it run. It didn't make V8 noises. A lot of people were guessing 2Js. But it was it was really well received because people were just genuinely interested to know about the Barra. And it was even more so because the Cresta was an unknown car to them, but having a local platform with a completely foreign engine, I think drew more people into looking at it rather than the Cresta with the Barra combo.
The event proved to be an emotional roller coaster, which began with a near engine failure even before leaving South Carolina, and culminated with the title of the fastest six-cylinder to complete the 2019 Drag Week. The heart of this combo is the unbreakable 4-litre straight-six Ford Barra engine built by Empire Mechanical. The engine uses an FG1 block and sump. The factory crank has been heat-treated, and the factory oil pump has been replaced with a horsepower junkie adjustable billet unit.
Physically mounting the engine into the bay, we've gone for a tough mounts kit, which actually mounts into the factory Mustang cradle. That was literally the easiest part of the whole conversion. It nested straight into the factory pickup points. While we are using a chromoly crossmember in this vehicle, it does mimic the factory Mustang pickup points. So slotting it in was just super simple and helped us so much throughout the conversion.
Physically replacing a small block V8 with a straight 6 proved easy enough, but the guys now had to find a way to replace the power produced by those V8 cubes.
The engine being an iron block six-cylinder, it's inherently quite strong. You can put a ton of boost in it, and the cylinder head design is really well thought out, and they're designed to do 1,000,000 kilometers, so the whole top end is very robust, and even the forces we put through it, there's not a lot of aftermarket stuff in it. We've basically got aftermarket valves, springs, and cams. The head castings are factory, the retaining caps are factory, so Ford actually did a fantastic job engineering the engine, even though it was designed to make 200 kilowatts.
The Bennies opted for a Garrett G42 1450, pushing out 35 to 40 psi of boost, depending on the tune. The turbo sits on a Hypertune exhaust manifold.
There's a few turbo combos you can look at. Previously we ran a GTW 388467 on my Cresta. It consistently ran 9.0s in a 3,300 pound car, and that thing you could just drive and have fun, do other events like Power Cruise, and it was just super diverse. Going to the G42 has obviously made a massive difference time-wise, like we're running low eights with both cars. However, you do lose some of that kind of performance low end if you want to do those kind of power cruisy type events with it. So if you're going to go dedicated drag car, the G42 is a fantastic turbo. However, if you do want to go have a more diverse type car and still make 1,000 nearly horsepower at the wheels, the GTW is actually quite a good turbo as well.
As well as the track-focused 4-inch side exhaust, the car has a more street-oriented secondary 3-inch exhaust that runs all the way under the car and exits at the rear. A valve in the exhaust system controls which way the gases go.
Up top we've got Kelford cams, we've got cam lockouts also from Empire Mechanical. We've also got 1mm oversized valves. The cylinder head is CNC ported, but it's still a factory casting. We haven't gone overboard with it. As far as ignition goes, we're just using R35 ignition coils wired directly into the Haltech.
The cooling system is fairly simple. OEM fans, OEM-style VE Commodore radiator, massive Hypertune intercooler with billet and tanks, and aluminium clamps which eliminate silicon couplings throughout all intercooler piping. With endurance in mind, 2 transmission coolers were mounted at 45-degree angles on either side of the car, and are supplemented with ECU-controlled fans.
Moving across to the induction side of the engine, we've got a Hypertune plenum. We're still running actually the factory Falcon FG throttle body. For the fuel system, we're starting with a Hypertune fuel rail, which is a twin entry rail, a single exit back to a GFB reg. We're only running a single stage injection in this, just 2200cc injectors. Moving back, we run a dash 10 supply line from the fuel tank back to the front, which splits into the twin 8s. And we've also got a triple pump hanger in our fuel cell in the boot, which runs 3 350 litre per hour pumps. The current setup in this is not staged, however, when we redo this setup, we will be moving to a stage pump system.
Of course, a well-sorted engine package is just one part of the equation. That power needs to be transferred to the wheels and then down to the ground.
For the transmission, we've gone with a conventional Turbo 400, still maintaining 3-speed and also maintaining the factory GM ratios. We have, however, gone for a reed case, and we've also got a QuickTime bell housing. We are using a Hughes bolt-together converter, and the transmission was also assembled by Hughes Performance in Arizona. Back in the diff, it's still the standard 8.8 that would have come in a Mustang like this. However, we've gone to a 3.0 gear set because we've gone a slightly taller tyre, and also because this thing does a lot of highway Ks in America, towing trailers, doing DragWeek and all that sort of gear. It does run a 35 spline axle setup, and it's also got a full spool.
The brake system uses an OEM Mustang master cylinder with the booster deleted. The car rides on Jegs wheels, shod with Mickey Thompson ET Street rubber. Stopping the beast are aerospace components 4-pot calipers up front and strange 4-pot calipers at the back.
For suspension, we've just got a bolt-in strut assembly in the front, which is a strange replacement unit. Those were actually already in the car. Much like a lot of the rear end of the car, it was maintained from the original build. In the rear, we've also got a strange single adjustable coilover assembly. We're no longer running the separate spring and shock combo the Mustang would have originally come with.
The interior of the Mustang can best be described as basic. A 6-point welded chrome moly cage with centre-mounted parachute release handle are almost ubiquitous in any modern race car. Not so much the Momo steering wheel, which we are told was raided from a Subaru Legacy. Both the driver and the passenger are treated to fixed back bucket race seats.
These seats, while good at the track, I wouldn't really recommend trying to do an event like DragWeek on them. They are fairly uncomfortable after a solid 4 or 5 hour ride in the car. It's probably something we will revisit in the build later, but these were fitted to the car when we originally purchased it as a going concern.
Much like the whole build, the engine management system is fairly simple and foolproof.
A lot of people will wonder why we haven't added extra features to the Haltech and the wiring of the vehicle. Purely because it is a DragWeek style vehicle, we wanted to keep it super simple and easy to diagnose on the road. So for that reason, we haven't added extra boxes like an I/O expander, just to keep it super simple, and it works perfectly. The engine management package we've gone with in the Mustang is the Elite 2500. We are using a few extra add-ons, such as the rotary trim module. We use a rotary trim for setting our launch RPM at the track. Other than that, that doesn't have any other function. We do, however, use oil pressure, oil temperature, fuel pressure, and coolant temperature as safety inputs into the ECU. So if we do have any issues, those all make sure it's in check. And if we do go outside of any of the preset parameters, it does actually give us a hard RPM cut to let the driver know that there is an issue with the engine or the powertrain. So we're very conscious of running this thing safely and also maintaining the safety of the mechanicals as well as the driver. As for boost control, we're just using a conventional 3-port solenoid setup in this vehicle. We're not using CO2 or a 4-port, so the Haltech takes care of the 3-port style stuff, no worries. We haven't really had any issues at all with boost control in that format, so we're happy to run it that way. The transmission is the trans brake is controlled by the Haltech also, so as a safety feature, I can literally sit on this trans button the whole way down the pass once I've let it go, and the ECU won't actually allow the trans brake to re-engage. That's probably one of my favorite features as far as safety goes. Anyone who's not familiar with the car, if they have to move it or drive it, there's no safety or there's no issue in grabbing that button and potentially locking the car while driving down the road or at the track.
While the Barra engine has been around for almost 2 decades, its popularity within the performance and racing scene is a fairly recent phenomenon, especially outside of its native Australia.
Behind me, the Mustang, it was the first car to actually be completed in America with a Barra-swap on American soil. Since we completed that car, there's been about 9 or 10 people who have also completed conversions with varied results. Some guys are running ASPO, but it's fantastic to see the Americans take it on, and hopefully in the future that'll lead to in-house American developed products, potentially like billet blocks or different combos. Like, it's good to just have different people thinking about it, but yeah, for me, the billet block's definitely the top of the pedestal at the moment. My advice for anyone wanting to do drag challenge or drag week with a Barra, just build one. Don't try mucking around with a gas motor. They don't make the magical 1,000 horsepower the internet claims. Buy a non-turbo engine, put some pistons and rods in it, some valve springs, a timing chain set, an oil pump gear, and you're pretty much good to go. You can get away with using an OEM style head gasket. You can get away with using drop-in head studs. I reckon you could probably build a 1,000 horsepower capable bottom end if you're going to assemble it yourself for under 6,000 or 7,000 Australian dollars. So they're quite a capable package, and you don't need an aftermarket crank until you're at like 1500 horsepower. We've proven with this car and my own car that you can run those stock cranks well above 1200 horsepower. I know a few people have pushed them past 1500, but a nice safe number is 1200 with those stock cranks.
After coming back to Australia, the Mustang was entered in Street Machine's Drag Challenge weekend, where it came second in the 6-cylinder class, runner-up only to Benny No. 2's Barra-powered Cresta. Not bad for a car that was built in just 12 days from parts sourced from the opposite side of the planet.
Yeah, I really love this build. It's just a match made in heaven with the Fox Mustang platform all the way from the US, the Barra all the way from Australia. Just piecing those two together just tops it off for me. If you guys want to see more on the build series of the Mustang, check out the Skid Factories channel. And if you want to see the Drag Week episodes, check out Benny's Custom Works, which is my channel. It's not a vlog.